Hey everyone, I hope you're well. Nikki Smash here. Welcome to the Riff Yard. And a year later, from my first encounter on the show, I have the amazing Miss Amelia Quinn. How are you doing, man?
I'm good. Has it only been a year? Wow.
Yeah, it has, man. It
Ooh.
has. What
Feels
a
like
year.
way longer. Yeah. A lot
Does
has
feel
happened.
longer. Yeah, so last time we spoke on the show, you just gave us the exclusive of the name of the record.
Yeah.
And then since then, you've kind of taken over the world, right? In
I'm
a
working
short
on it.
kind of sentence.
I'm working on it. Yeah, for sure.
And even more recently, well, of course, you had the great success of the record, great record. And as we spoke about last time, it was recorded live.
It was.
Absolutely brilliant vibe on that. And sadly, I was too ill. I couldn't get to the bloody launch show in London. And I do apologize for that. Don't kill me, internet. But I was in in and out of hospital. It's fine, but it was
I
a
mean, we did
successful
have
tour.
someone that came from hospital to Birmingham for the show, so
Come on, man.
saying it, just throwing it out there.
All right, cool. Next time I'll make sure I'll get there.
Genuinely
I'll
well.
get there. All right,
I'm
okay.
proud.
I'll get the ambulance to take me
Yeah,
out
I'll
to the
guess.
venue. We'll do that, I promise. So yeah, you had a great tour.
Yeah.
That went really well. Um, and now we're already getting some live tracks from the tour, and you have played some amazing festivals, slots, and supports, and all the other juicy live things since. So let's get into it. Tell us all about it.
Wow. I'm like, when was our chat? Like, which month was it? Because a lot happened over the summer. The summer was quite busy, uh,
Mm,
doing things like I had main stage at Buckle and Boots Festival, which was awesome.
amazing.
Um, and I'm back there this year. This is my third consecutive year this year,
That's
and
so good, man.
it's definitely a bigger slot. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say. I actually texted her. I was like, "What can I say? What can't I say? I don't know yet." But it's a bigger slot, and I'm very excited for it. And so I had that. I had just an awesome summer doing things like Speed Fest was incredible. Got to wave the flag for one of the NASCAR races. That
Oh
was
man, that's so rad.
did Black Deer as well with the Cafe Nero stage, which was incredible. And I've never been to Black Deer before, and it's been one of those that I've been dying to
Great
go to.
festival.
Got a tattoo there. Got a wedding tattoo. I got
Oh,
married as
of
well.
course, yeah, you got married, yeah.
Big
Oh my
year.
God.
2023 was a big year. A lot happened, and yeah, like you say, the album and the tour just were amazing. Went down brilliantly. Still go down brilliantly, and it's given me the opportunity to kind of carry on that live vibe theme, but with actual full-on live tracks from the Wanderlust and Breaking Rules tour. They were recorded at Heron Hounds in Birmingham on the Birmingham leg of the tour, and they just sounded
The one I missed, yeah.
one you missed, yeah. Uh, and they just sounded amazing. And I thought I really want to sort of keep. It's hard. Like I'll be totally honest. It's hard. Like after releasing something like an album that you've put well over a year's worth of work into, to keep
Mm.
the momentum going, make the most out of that body of work. Because that's like 10 tracks. It's a lot of songs. It's a lot of money that's gone into it as well. And you really want to like give time for it to breathe, but at the same time, as is the conveyor belt nature of the music industry, you still have to release. So I've kind of found a happy medium in giving these, live tracks for anybody that wasn't able to make the tour or wants to relive the tour and hear what we're like live. And they just sounded the recording was amazing. The engineer there was incredible, and it would just be an injustice not to release some of these. So that's why we're doing it.
That's great. On the subject of that, what do you think about the whole singles versus EP versus
Ah,
album thing? Because it's a
well,
mudslinging contest, that debate, and rightly so to some degree, but you're someone who has done all of it, right?
now, yeah.
You've got yeah, yeah, you've got, well, you really have got the full circle of it all. So you've got singles, EPs, a record, and you've got live tracks.
Yeah. So
The whole
yeah,
the whole thing's there. So
the whole thing. All I need to do is a remix now, and then I've got the set.
oh yeah.
But I don't know. It's one of those things, and I think it's always going to be a battle finding a balance. And I think you've got to individually as an artist find the balance between what works for you and what the industry demands. I think a lot of doing the album and doing the singles in the run up to the album and sort of the growth in my career, which has been way faster than I thought it would be and a bit of a whirlwind. And we did actually pivot at one point on one of the singles. We changed what the single was to be more commercially friendly, if that makes sense, kind of like available for radio play and, you know, mainstream radio play and things
Sure.
like that. Because originally it was going to be Backroads. Backroads is like 5, nearly 6 minutes long. And we had to kind of pivot that because you're not going to get on commercial radio. You're not likely to get on commercial radio with a song that long. So it ended up being Mr. Shame, which is great because Mr. Shame is a high vibe, high energy. Love it. And I got to kind of hold Backroads as that finisher on the album and a big surprise. But yeah, there's a lot. I've learned a lot. And I think it's kind of finding the balance between what you feel is right for you as an artist versus what is going to get you heard and what is going to get your foot through the door in certain places. And I have this discussion a lot, especially with friends who are older musicians than me, shall we say, and sort of saying, you know, is social media important? I'm like, yes, it is, and things like that, and kind of like,
Yeah.
you've got to play the game, but you've at the same time got to make the game work for you. And that's kind of one of the things I'm learning is how to continue being my authentic self, which I refuse to ever not be. I will never be anybody else but myself. I don't know how to be anybody else, and no one else is available. You know, everyone else is taken. I've just got me to roll with. That's what we're doing. But also finding how I can keep my artistic integrity while also playing the game as it was. But it's also opening up opportunities and different ways of seeing things, different perspectives for me as well. I'm learning to be less stubborn. But I'm also learning how to maybe think differently when I write. It's creating new ways of writing for me, which is really interesting that I probably wouldn't have done before. It's opening those doors for me as well. So it makes it sound bad when I'm kind of saying, oh, you know, you have to play the game. It's not. It's you make it fun and you find new opportunities and new perspectives, which I think is always important when you're growing as well. So in short, I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do it, but I know that I was gonna do an EP next, and now it's not looking like it's gonna be an EP.
Care to elaborate? Please tell me we're getting record number 2 already.
Not already. I have booked studio time. I can say that I have booked studio time, and I have got plans of what I want to do and how I want to do it. And I don't feel like an EP is the right direction for me to go right now after releasing an album. So
A
yeah.
double record.
But the fun thing about singles as well is that you get to have longevity with them, and especially with the album campaign, I got to make Wanderlust and Breaking Rules campaign and sort of journey as a whole last for a full year. And so that's kind of the advantage with singles, is being able to tease that new music, give these little tastes as you go on quite regularly as well, before sort of dropping a big body of work that, you know, you put a lot of work into. But yeah.
It's interesting. Like when I was coming up, because as I was saying just before, I'm a bit older than you, you know, so things were very different. It was, for me, it was always like, got to get some singles together to make an EP. You do a couple of EPs, then you've got to do an album, and then you can go and tour. It's not quite as written in the paper as it is now.
I think
suppose,
it's really flexible, like way more flexible than it used to be.
yeah, 100%. I think the plus side with that, and to kind of touch upon what you're saying, is keeping the authenticity and the integrity allows you to be that. It allows you to keep that, and you can, I suppose, with breaking some rules, you know, oh, fucking hell, I know, oh Jesus Christ, yeah, skimming the barrel there, you know. You know, you are able to make your own rules with it, what works for you. I think the plus point of things like the streaming world is you're able to kind of get immediate feedback on like your demographic, who your fans really are. You
Mm.
know, I just remember touring and touring and touring, and literally coming off like a 20-date UK satellite town tour. Feeling broken, and coming in, it's like, I think we have 10 fans off these 20 shows, and then you go like, looks like we shouldn't play with indie bands or death metal bands again. Noted. I think
Yeah.
you can kind of pick and choose that path a bit more.
It's
And
having
also,
the
sorry,
data.
Karen.
No, it's just having the insights and having the data that kind of tells you who's listening to you. But I think it's important to remember that a lot of those numbers are vanity metrics. They're not reflective of who's gonna buy a ticket, who's gonna buy a t-shirt, who's gonna invest in because let's face it, we all know streaming isn't the moneymaker by any means. And so
It is not, especially not at the moment. No.
it's easy to get hooked on those numbers, and I think it's important to remember that those numbers are not the be all and end all of your career. And at the same time, those numbers change. I saw those numbers where I was very lucky to play C2C this year,
Yeah, we've
and
got to touch on that
I
more in a
saw
minute.
but I got added to the official playlist, and I saw my Spotify numbers change drastically to what they were before being on the playlist versus being on the playlist. Because I'm still getting into the year and into playing shows, and obviously my tour coming up at the end of this year as well, I've yet to see if that's going to translate into the demographics that actually buy tickets and come to the shows. Because being on a playlist and selling tickets to a tour are two very, very different things. So I'll be really interested to see that. But I think it's important to note, if you're kind of an artist as well, as that is not necessarily your entire demographic. That is the demographic that listens to you on that specific platform.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the same one that's buying the tickets. But like you say, it does help inform where to go. And like, touring is expensive. So when you're booking these venues, my Wanderlust and Breaking Rules tour, I did that by myself. It was a choice to do that by myself and not have any promoters involved and not have any, I got feedback and I got advice, but I wanted to book it and do it on my own.
Did you host the tickets and stuff yourself? Yeah.
I did. Some of the venues host their own tickets depending on their hire, but yeah, essentially I was the promoter, I was booking the venues, I was advancing everything, I was paying for everything up front, and I wanted to do that. But, it costs a lot of money, and to make it as cost effective as you can use those stats to say, okay, well, where are my most listeners from, or where they're close to, and that's how I chose the cities that I chose to tour in.
Interesting.
Go off of those statistics as well, so they're useful, but they can also be really easy to get hung up on and get a little bit blinded by. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. I think I rinsed this quote from an artist called Jamie Lemon and this is probably going back 7 or 8 years, when he did an interview with Terry Beezer, and he was asking him, why aren't you band getting back together? Why aren't Ruben getting back together and all this lot? And he was like, hang on a minute. The internet is where a whisper turns into a roar.
Mm-hmm.
And that floored me, that comment, and it stuck by me. And I think it's very much the same with streaming. You go like, holy crap, I've got 5,500 monthly listeners, and you're looking at all the numbers and you're like, what is happening? You know what I mean? Or type of thing. And then you realize that is around the world for a start.
Yeah, for a start,
And
one place.
yeah, of course. And the UK is tiny.
Mm-hmm.
But once you start chipping away all those round the world numbers and you start focusing in and you go, that 5,500 is 23 in London,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like 4 in Scotland, and you go like, well, hang on a minute. These numbers aren't balancing to what that 5,500 is.
Yeah.
So I think, again, echoing kind of what you're saying there, they do get inflated and you kind of get a bit kind of oh my God, look at that, you know.
That's why I refer to them as vanity metrics, because
Mm,
yeah, it's great when you're needing a bit of a boost and you kind of like, you know, imagine 5,000 people in one room, like that's insane. And that's that. And those are, when those are real listeners, that is really cool. And it's not, I'm not taking away from that at all.
yeah.
Like it's really easy to sort of be like, I have 5,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. Why can't I sell tickets to this show?
Mm,
And you've got to just remember where those 5,000 are. But I think it's also an opportunity in with streaming services, much as they're not the money maker and there's a lot of argument that they're doing more damage than good in the industry. I'm pretty neutral-ish on the subject in terms of sort of the financial side of it. Um,
I can see
but
both sides of how,
I can definitely see both
you know.
sides.
Mm,
And I do think there probably is a better way of doing it, or maybe there is a fairer way of doing it. I think it's just too new still,
yeah,
uh, that it hasn't been found yet. But I think give it time and we'll get there. You know, we had the same thing with CDs. You know, they didn't put certain security measures on CDs because they didn't think anyone would rip them, and well, we know how that went. So give
yeah,
it time. But I do think that they're not evil though. They do give a huge amount of opportunity to be discovered globally. I wouldn't necessarily have listeners in like Sweden, of all places, if
mm,
it was for being added to a playlist with one of my songs. And like I wouldn't have listeners necessarily in the US or in Europe if it wasn't for streaming services and for
exactly.
being on playlists.
Yeah, and I suppose coming back to the success you've had with C2C, you know, that also couples with that, right?
Yeah,
Where,
definitely.
you know, you can see the great show being
Mhm.
added to the playlist, and not everyone gets added to it, of course, you know, which is great. And then you see people listening, you got to think, you know, playing a numbers business game here, that you think, well, a percentage of that is definitely going to be like, whoa, what's that? Oh, sick. Yeah, hang on a minute. I caught her. I caught that set. That was sick. Follow. Oh yeah, let me just get on Instagram.
At a
You know.
small stage. And with every step, that gets smaller. It's the funnel. It's it's a
Mm,
funnel. Same with business marketing. It's all a funnel. So those big numbers that I suddenly was getting, and I was like reaching little goals that I had of just getting 1,000 monthly listeners, and I got over that, and I was like, oh, amazing, cool. Um, they don't stay either. That's something to note, is that yes, I did get them and I was getting 5,000 monthly streams and stuff like that. But these update every day and they don't stay. So that's why you shouldn't get hung up on them as well. But
100%.
I would hope that some of the people that found me off that playlist caught my set. If they didn't catch my set, I hope that they still came through and followed and have me on their release radar and things like that. But I'm also well aware that it's not a case of just being added to a playlist. It's a lot of legwork as well. But that's the fun bit, is doing the work.
Yeah. And yeah, and touching on something you said there, I think is really important as well, Amelia, because if you do get a break with playlists, like my old band never got on an editorial, never got on you know, any playlists like that, right? When I do my wallpaper music rubbish, gets playlists all the time,
Yeah.
you know, but no one comes to my social media after listening to that. It's not that type of avenue.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So when you're looking at, let's, if we compare that to like radio,
Hmm.
you know, and you go like, hey, I've just got played on the radio, and people are like, holy shit, that's it. Gonna be gonna be bloody on everything and playing main stage, this and that. The the percentage funnel still applies,
Absolutely, it does. Yeah.
you know, and it's like I see a lot of I've had a lot of friends recently who've got some amazing play on like Radio One and stuff,
Hmm.
and I'm not taking any away from them at all. This is just
It's
talking
incredible
back.
achievement. And to be
Yeah, of
seen by
course,
people who do the producers that make these shows is a huge achievement.
100%. But you know, a lot of these shows that their people are getting on are through the through the night, you
Hmm.
know, and you got to go like, well, how's that being retained throughout the day? Do people actively go and listen to it in the day to then come back to it? It's a really confusing time, and I think a lot of that, you know, was it kind of like, it's not showboating or showing off, you know, but it's kind of like you
I
know,
think,
some stamp of authenticity that
yeah, I think it's
doesn't fully
validation.
carry sometimes, does
And
it?
yeah, I mean, it's really hard. I think it's one of the probably one of the toughest things of being an independent artist or just being an artist in general,
Mm.
that you've really got to enjoy those moments at the same time as keeping yourself grounded and remembering what they actually are. Because I think it's a lot of smoke and mirrors in this industry, as it is in a lot of creative industries, not just a
I
lot of,
think even more now than it's ever been, to be honest.
a lot more now than and it seems that it's getting, especially with sort of TikTok and things like that as well. It seems to be a lot of putting a lot of this image out there. It's all about image and about what things seem. But I think it's finding that balance, and it can be really hard on your mental health. Finding the balance between, absolutely you should celebrate things like that 100%, whether you're played at 3 o'clock in the morning on Radio 1, that's you still been played on Radio 1, and that's a
Mm,
huge deal.
100%.
But then it's also like remembering that that isn't necessarily going to mean that you're going to have all the major labels knocking at your door saying I want to sign you, and you're not going to be headlining Glastonbury. And it can be really, really conflicting to get these opportunities and then be like, well, why am I still here? Or why haven't I got to that point then? Like in your mind, you kind of got this path that you want to go down and say, why aren't I over there yet then? And like it's a wild ride. And it's still something that I'm learning to sort of deal with and work out. And I'm thankful I've got a manager that I can sound things out to as well. And she's
Mm.
really knowledgeable in like how the music industry works and sort of how it's
Yeah,
actually,
she's
and like,
great.
"Oh,
Yeah.
this happens, this might cause this, might not, this is why this has happened, blah blah blah." Especially when it comes to festival pitching season as well, because you can only pitch and hope that your last, and it relies on your whole last year having done really well. It doesn't matter what you've got coming up, it's all what's already passed and what people have already seen from you. And that's
Yeah.
why doing the legwork is so important, because it'll get you those opportunities, but just because you've got those opportunities doesn't mean you can just be like, I could sit back and relax now, I'm good, I'm there, I'm doing it. Because just like the listener numbers, that can drop off straight away. You've got to fight for your place and prove that you're worthy of it, prove why people should listen to you and give them a reason to care. Because I've always said this, and it sounds really brutal, it sounds really horrible, and I'm not intending it to be at all. This is what I say to myself: they don't have to care about you. They've got they
Absolutely.
owe you nothing. Just
Yeah.
because you've decided to go and do music as a career, that audience does not
No
owe
one
you.
owes you shit.
They're listening, exactly.
That's
You've
it.
got to give
Yeah.
them a reason to. And I think that's that. And it all comes back to being authentic. And I think being authentic and, living by your own values and playing the game, but making sure it's still you and still putting you across, that's what's going to get you the dedicated fans, because they're going to see a real person, you make a real connection. And when you boil it all down, take away the industry part out of it, music is about connection, it's about communication.
Hmm.
So I think that's why it's so important, and it's so important to keep yourself grounded.
Yeah, well said, man. There's a lot of stuff in there which I
Thank you.
echo, you know. Yeah. I think right, I'll wrap this little segment up before we can talk about some of the amazing stuff you've got coming up, you know. Don't want it to be too heavy, you know,
I know, it's gone.
on a Monday recording this. Um, you know, I think out of all of it, I think touring is always going to be the most important thing. That's
Yeah.
the one thing that I think has always been the best metric is playing a
Mm.
show and how many people are going to come to the merch stand afterwards.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the real people. Because
Conversation that you have at the merch stand as well.
yeah,
Because I've had some incredible conversations at the merch stand about how my songs have affected people, or how they were like I said, someone literally left hospital and came straight to the show, and I'm like, what?
yeah,
What?
it's amazing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Which is just, it's awesome. And I'm like, wow. And that's someone who just really clearly enjoys music. And I'm like, okay. Because in my mind, I'm still just little me writing songs in my room. Like, for someone to be dedicated enough to come do that. And I've had people sort of say, this song it's my experience down to a T. And I'm like, it's mind blowing. It's amazing. But that's
yeah,
where you're going to make those connections. And that's where and like you say, that is the metric. That's where you're going to see who's really into it with who you're connecting with, who's really dedicated in terms of supporting your career and wants to listen to what you have to say in your songs and really enjoys your music and stuff.
Yeah,
'Cause
it's I think it's the people that give their time.
yeah,
That's the thing that always is
time
always
is the most
touched me as an
valuable
artist.
thing.
Yeah, people giving their time, and I've always been so grateful for that for myself. And I know
100.
you are. You know, it always blows my mind. You know, even as someone who's giving my time,
Yeah.
you know, as some like because I'm still a fan of so many artists. You know, I fanboy after so many big and small artists. You know, I love it. Like, you know, the music
Yeah.
thrill is no different from when I was a kid for me. You know, like I put on records that I've heard a million times and I'm still like, oh yes, this bit's coming up. You know, like I'm such a geek, you know, a massive music anorak,
Yeah.
you know, which is why I started doing this type of stuff as well, you know. But yeah, it blows my mind on that, you know. It's an incredible thing, you know.
Yeah.
So
It will never be not something that I treasure. I think I'm always gonna treasure and be amazed that people want to come and spend time with me listening to my music and like spend time streaming it at home and buy the merch and stuff. And
mm,
that's people's hard-earned cash, especially at the moment as well.
oh
And
yeah, of
still able
course.
to sell
Yeah.
tickets. And I'm like, this is incredible, and I'm so mega grateful for that. And I will always do as much as I can to give the best experience and give a show and like give good quality merch and good quality music and really put my all into it to put this out to people because they're making my career for me, so they deserve all of that. They deserve to have the absolute best of me.
And that's a testament to to coming quite a nice little transition here. Like that's a testament. That's a testament to the successful year you've had
Yeah.
since we last spoke on this. You know,
Miles.
it is. I mean, if you think about if you wrap up what we've just spoken about, all of those aspects of the industry as an artist, as a business person, you
Yeah.
know, all of that other stuff, you know, looking at metrics or looking at, you know, all the other stuff. The proof that it's working, you know,
Mm.
and I hate using that, oh, it's working, you're doing very well, you know,
Yeah.
type of thing. But you know the angle I'm
Going in the
aiming at.
right direction.
Yeah, of course, right. You know, is that um yeah, it's a testament to all of those things, right? You know, and it's brilliant to see, you know, it's great to see it, you know. So apart from playing killer shows at C to C and getting on massive playlists and kicking ass, you know, by the looks of it, got another, you know, mental couple of months coming up. It's been
Man,
tough to get you to do this.
I
You
know.
know, like not like,
And
oh, it's
I
been tough
remember
to get
saying to
Amelia
you,
to
it was
do
like,
this,
we're
but
going to get to April and I'm going to be stupid busy. So let me know. I'm like booking things so long in advance.
well,
I've got,
we've been trying to book this interview since February.
we got there. It's
We
like
got there, we did it, we did
yeah,
it.
midway through April. It's fine. We got that.
That's good.
Miracle it's not like happening in September.
Yeah.
Oh God, no. I'm like I said, I'm astounded by the growth. I think it's definitely spun my head a little bit.
Mm,
I wasn't expecting it to be so quick, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I don't know what's going on. I know I'm growing. I know my profile is getting bigger. I know what's happening, but it does. I also catch myself just being like, why? Like
yeah.
what? How? When did this happen? And like I say, I'm mega grateful for it because this is all I know how to do. I am fully a musician in my heart and soul. I'm a songwriter. This is the only thing I know how to do, and that I absolutely adore doing it, and will pour my entire life into it. And so you have to make it work somehow if you want to do it full time, and I do
Yeah,
want
of
to do it.
course.
But yeah, it's been crazy, and like this, like I say, everything for the upcoming year relies on how your last year went, and you're always trying to better yourself and top the last thing that you did. And I think I'm really starting to see a lot of it coming to fruition. I'm getting amazing opportunities, like I say, this sort of big sort of buckle that I'm like, it's been a bucket list kind of thing, and like playing festivals, being invited back to Speedfest, which is amazing. Absolutely love Speedfest. be invited to do Rock and Ribs. That's one that I've ticked off. I've got a little jar with little, wish lists on my career wise for me. That's what I can take out of there now, because I'm like, yeah, I'll just play it.
That's great.
And yeah, it's just, and to be able to go on tour again, because the last tour did so well, and to be able to sort of have that ride on that high and say I can go do it again. So I'm touring again in October, doing an acoustic tour this time, and bringing back kind of a concept that I had in during lockdowns. I did Barefaced Fridays live streams and videos and stuff, where I strip everything back and it's like really about the songs. So I'm taking that concept and taking it on tour, because I spent a lot of time songwriting. Obviously all the album stuff was going on. I didn't stop songwriting during that, so I've got a lot of material that I kind of want to take out there and make it about the songs. I love songs, I love words, I love lyrics, and I just want to kind of put that as a show together while I work on the next project. So it's a wild year, but it's a really positive and a really good year.
Yeah.
And I feel really privileged to be able to do that, because I think it is a privilege to be able to do it, especially at the moment, and just at any point anyway. But I think particularly at the moment, everyone's having a really tough time. So to be able to carry on and still have all these amazing opportunities, and a lot of it is, it's down to my team as well, who've just been incredible and massively supportive and helping me get my foot in the door.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you said something else there that kind of, was getting my brain thinking. With writing, what do you think is missing from a lot of mainstream music? And that doesn't have to be any particular genre,
Yeah.
but what do you think is missing from it? Because like I'm someone who personally I love all genres. I mean, if someone plays something brutal metal, I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. But I can listen to some EDM and be like, I get that, I understand it, right?
Yeah.
Like I think I have that ability,
I,
and I enjoy it. But
yeah.
there is a lot of it, and I'd say let's throw a percentage out there. I'd say a good 75-8% of like the commercial music
Mm-hmm.
seems a bit kind of soulless, would be the cliche word to use.
I think that's an interesting question, and it's an interesting statement, because music is extremely subjective.
Mm,
And I feel like it depends who you ask in terms of whether it is soulless, whether it is missing something. So I don't think that it's necessarily missing anything. I think from my personal taste, what I can say is I'm the same. I listen to loads of different genres. I was listening to disco rap this morning. So, I listen to a lot of different things. And I like some mainstream songs. I assume we're talking stuff like that's on like Capital FM and Heart Radio and things like that. Like
yeah.
the massive, the really massive artists that are doing the pop mainstream stuff.
Yeah.
So
But
I
there
have
is great pop though. Like to say that at the same time, there's great pop tracks where I hear and I go,
yeah.
like, it's
I think
just
there's
great,
definitely, I'm a big believer in a space for everything. I think to my personal taste, I do listen to some of it. I don't necessarily like all of it. I'm not going to sit here and be like, everything's amazing. Me personally, I like music, no matter any genre, that has a strong story and that has interesting lyrics. And like I said, I'm really about words. I wrote poetry and short stories before I started songwriting. I really love language. I love words. I love how you can
interesting.
use it to say funny words to say anything, but you know what I mean? Like you can
No,
shape
I understand.
language to say things in so many different ways, or to say one thing and it be taken and interpreted loads of different ways. So I think I really like solid lyrics and that really have a good storyline, and that's probably why I'm kind of in the country Americana blues genres, because
Yeah.
that's kind of one of the key things of those genres. So anything that's sort of got a really good storyline to it and a really good sort of narrative and interesting lyrics, I'll probably like it, regardless of genre. But at the same time, there's some songs that I really like that are like bassline songs that have the same three words over and over again with different effects. I'm like, yeah, it's a vibe. It depends on your mood. But I think there's probably, when people say there's a kind of movement where people say, "Oh, mainstream music's shit," like, you know,
It's
it's
not
yeah,
shit, no.
it's soulless, like you say. I think
A lot of it is, I'd say
what they're
it's
probably
not
going
shit,
for is
but there's
that
a lot
it's
of it is
not.
soulless, yeah.
Yeah, we're probably going for that it's not got that story or it's not got that kind of connection. But
Yeah.
then again, it might have that to someone else. Someone might
Yeah.
hear those lyrics and be like, that is me, or I get that, I feel that. And the combination of the lyrics or very few lyrics with the music might put a different, intonation on them. You might get a different interpretation. You put the same line over a major chord sequence versus a minor chord sequence, it's going to feel different.
100%.
I think I haven't totally answered that. And that's kind of
No,
my
no, no,
thoughts
100, no,
around
no.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think again, we touched upon this last time. I think it's the delivery. I'm a big fan of that. It's not about getting punched in the face by music. It's how you're getting punched in the face by music,
Yeah.
you know? And
And sometimes you want to be punched in the face by music.
oh
Or
yeah,
you
100%.
go for
I want to
it.
be punched in the head all the time by music, you know? Um, but you know, I think it's how it's chopped up and delivered, you know? And I
Yeah.
think that again, that's you know, not trying to cozy up to yourself there, but I think it's one thing that you do exceptionally well. Again, I think that's a testament to it, and that ties into the integrity thing for me personally. Like as someone who's like lectured at university with this type of stuff, I think naturally, and also as well, like I'm naturally really analytical. Like I love kind of peeling the, you know, the excuse me, I love like kind of peeling the hood back and looking
Yeah.
at the engine and seeing how it all works. Like
Yeah.
not in a kind
Why
of
why does that song make me feel like that? Or what about this lyric invokes
yeah.
that kind
And
of response? Yeah, I get
yeah,
that.
and in not to pull it apart, not to go like, oh, I wanna, you know, like not in some kind of like
Oh,
cavemanish way. It's like
yeah.
because I understand it and I love hearing the details of stuff and understanding those parts. And again, I think that's like I said, you know, coming back to the integrity and the authenticity side of what you're about.
Mhm.
That is a big part of it. And again, if you are to kind of put your metric business head back on, you know, and look at the growth that you've had in like almost 18 months, you go like, well, there's a sum here that adds up to that, you know. You're ticking those things, but I suppose that does come under the authenticity, keeping that integrity. When I was talking to a friend of mine, Billy Joe Clark, who's like he's like the biggest UK instrumental
Mhm.
like artist for mood music and stuff, and
Yeah.
that's one thing he always harps on about. He never cares about what someone initially is going to think. It's all about how he's doing it, right? It's
Yeah.
just like, okay, right. I mean, he might want to go, right, I want to write a song to go with Rain or something like that, you know, like in that kind of way. It's amazing watching. I've been in a session with him. It's amazing watching his brain work with this stuff. You're like, oh, cool. That's a different way of doing things. I'm going to nick that idea.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And again, like keeping it, you know, he'll always do something to make sure the song is him in
Yeah.
its full expression and with no compromises.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a kind of Liam Gallagher, Noel Gallagher like arrogance, like, oh no, I'm gonna do what the fuck I want type of thing.
Yeah, but I think it's
It's
important
definitely in your
still cater
yeah,
to the masses while also having a piece of yourself in there. And I think it's a lot, especially when you're a smaller artist, you're an independent artist, it's going to be a lot harder to sell something to an audience that you don't believe in versus selling a little piece of you to someone. And that's one of the things I took away from uni myself. And I did a master's in music business because I wanted to understand all of this stuff, all the business stuff. I
same.
find it really interesting,
Yeah.
and I wanted to be able to run my own show as well. Because it's very important to know what you're doing in this industry, especially.
Taking the control though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's taking
That's
the
the thing with
control
it.
and keeping yourself safe because I think on a kind of little bit of a tangent, there's a lot of scams out there, and I mean, I get daily messages being like, "Buy Spotify plays." I'm like, no, don't
Yeah,
ever.
I recently got stung with something like that, which Spotify said, I don't know if you saw it online, but I had a record taken down because they're like, oh, this has been
Yeah,
playlisted, and I was like, it's
I've had
not been
streams
playlisted.
before.
It's over 10 years old, this record. It
Yeah,
has, playlisting A wasn't a thing back then, and two,
yeah,
I don't pay for it.
it's weird.
Eventually I've argued it with them, and they've gone, oh yeah, we have made a mistake. It's because someone I uploaded them last year, right? Due to,
Yeah,
all your stuff, uploaded it, and because someone had put it in a gym playlist and listened to it all the time in a gym,
yeah.
right? It got flagged.
It
And I'm
flags it
like,
down
what?
too. And I think that's a good thing. Like it's a
Yeah.
good technology, but it doesn't always work. Just like any technology,
Flag
it's
the
not
major labels,
always
not me.
accurate. Not always accurate. I've had streams taken off some of my songs before as well.
Yeah,
Because someone has had it on repeat, or they've just mistakenly said that there were fake streams or anything. I've never bought streams. I will never buy streams. I think it's
exactly.
majorly
Yeah, I'm
damaging,
against
and
that.
it's damaging for your analytics as well. Like, just don't do it. Don't do it. It's not worth it.
No, it's not.
Um, but yeah, it's kind of, I can't remember where I was going with this. But yeah, I think you're going to find it really hard to sell something that hasn't got a little piece of you in it, and it's really hard to believe in something like. And you know, maybe some people can, and that's great if that works for them. That is fab. It's not something I could ever do. I have to believe in what I'm putting out there, and I will not go and record songs if I don't really feel that it's right to record it and it's right for me. I don't see the point in it because it's not me. It's not authentic, and it's kind of cool to know as well that you're taking your fans on a journey of you while you're releasing this music. If you're really releasing it when you feel like it's really right and it really fits and it sits with that point in time, because there's songs that I released, back in 2019 on my first EP. I don't necessarily resonate with them now. I might still resonate with them, or I might resonate with them in a different way, but they were still a piece of me at that point, and I'll still play them with as much authenticity as I can give them now, and because they are still a little piece of my soul. But at the same time, you can see the journey of an artist through their music if they're being really authentic and putting that out there, because you see where they're at and what kind of state they're in and what they've learned and how they grow. And I think that's also a really interesting thing to see for a fan. So as an artist, why would you not want to give that? Because if you're going to be an artist, you're kind of giving away a piece of yourself, and you kind of have to get really comfortable with being really vulnerable in front
Yeah,
of a lot of people.
yeah, yeah. That's tough. That I think you're doing stuff that's triggering the synapses off here again, which is which is always happening when we're in a convo. Um, when you're talking about songs from 2019, obviously the world is a completely bizarre place since then. Who'd have
A bit
foreseen
different.
that? But have you got fans that go, "Hey, why haven't you played that?"
I do sometimes, yeah.
And do you think it's one of those things where you see big artists that even if you like, and you go like, "Oh man, I can't believe they haven't played that song off the first album. I bloody love that song."
I
Now
have
you've got
recently.
to flip flop between the fan
Yeah,
hat and the artist hat.
yeah.
I had it with with my career. I get people like, "Man, I can't believe you didn't play that." I'm like, "But we have played it for 8 years, you know." So
Yeah,
there was a chance,
that
for
is
you
the
to,
hard. That
you
list is
know.
really difficult, especially when you've got new music. Like, for example, on the tour, I knew that I wanted to play the entire album. I wanted to play every track off the album.
And
It
you're
wasn't an
excited
order.
about it too, right? You're like, I can't wait to play this
Yeah,
live.
it's because
Yeah.
it's brand new, and it's like and even I even put a couple of new songs that were unreleased that weren't on the album that might be coming up on the next one. And but
You
I
said it
wanted.
there. It's an
I'm so
album, isn't it? It's going to
excited.
be a long album. It's going to be a long double album or something, isn't it?
Oh no, I don't think I could do a double album, but I'm not. I'm not saying it's not. Uh,
Thought I tripped you up.
but like I had these new songs that I put into the set because you're really excited about them. By that point, the album to me, by the time it was released, to me, the album had been recorded 11 months previously. So already, you're in this weird time shift when you're a musician and you're sort of thinking about future releases. And at the moment as well, especially, I'm feeling that time shift because I'm releasing live versions that were recorded in November of songs that were recorded in December, of songs that were written like up to 5 years.
Mm.
previously. Some of the songs were literally 5, will be 6 years old now. And but I'm writing and workshopping the next set that I will be putting out next year. So it's like a really weird, can I swear?
Yeah, we've sworn anyway, so carry
Really
on.
weird head fuck. There's no other way to describe it for me. It is like that, and it's
Yeah,
this.
100%.
You've got to live into like 2 to 3 different timelines at a time. Um, but like I say, like they're all still parts of me. No matter when I've written it, it's still me that's written it, and it's still how I felt at some point, and I can still feel that. And you still, that's also the other thing in writing set lists that kind of makes it hard, is one, finding the balance between the different records and fan favorites versus new songs that you really want to put out there to become fan favorites. And also sometimes you don't want to play the songs that you've been playing for years. They do get old sometimes, and I'm starting to feel that a little bit with some of them. I'm kind of like, oh, but I can't not put it in. But I always enjoy playing it in the end anyways. But when I'm writing set lists, I'm like, again. But I think it's also, you relive in some way every time you play that song. You relive that moment. And sometimes some songs are heavy, and
Yeah,
they're
it's
written
hard.
about some heavy stuff, and it can bring up a lot of emotions, and depending on what's going on at the time as well, or what kind of state of mind you're in, you got to deal with that in some way. And if it's in a set, it's a fan favorite and stuff, you got to play it anyway, and you've got to find a way of being okay with playing it, and either detaching yourself, but at the same time you don't want to detach yourself because you want to deliver it properly, and finding a way to make sure that you're all right, because some topics can get really heavy, and sometimes the same song can be really hard to play one week to the other. I wrote a song that's on the album called Rosary Beads, and it's about my granddad passing away. And there's some days where I can play it, and I love it, and it feels wonderful to play. And there's some days where I'll play it and I'm really choking up during the song, and I'm trying
Mm.
really hard not to cry, not to break down on that stage. And so it's always a changing thing. I think we've got to remember that artists are still people, and they still have different moods every day, and it's always changing, it's always shifting. So yeah, set lists are hard, but I try and find a good balance.
Yeah, I think that again, that's something else that's very important to kind of think about is that, yeah, artists are just people, and in order to make you feel comfortable with something that you're going through, they've had to have gone through something maybe similar, or they've gone through some big
Yeah,
trauma in order to create that, in order to help you or save you or something like that. That's a very powerful thing to kind of keep an eye out or keep an ear out, as it were. It's a bit of a it is a bit of a head fuck, you know,
yeah,
that type of thing, isn't it? Again, it's that switching of hats all the time, isn't it?
yeah.
You go like, oh man, yeah, this set kicks, it's slick,
And
it's got
sometimes
all the bangers in it,
you get feedback, and you're like, oh no, that's not that great, or that doesn't work, and you're like, oh, but I put my everything into it to
Yeah,
pick my soul.
that is a kick in the teeth, that one. I remember, yeah, especially in the days of, for me, you go like, right, we've written this, right, let's play it next week at the show.
And
And
it
then
goes,
you go like, man, this song is gonna absolutely fucking slay. And you play it and
and
everyone's
it's
like,
mm.
oh, that one's shit. And you go like, oh, well, there's no better than
And
real time.
even that can change gig to gig as well. It all depends on the audience. It all depends on the
Yeah,
mood.
you go like, okay, look, we'll give it another go the next night. And then everyone's losing their shit to it. And you're
Yeah,
like,
it's crazy.
man, Bournemouth are not as cool as Southampton.
It always, because like these
Yeah.
audiences, they're not all going to be the same either. And just same as the
Yeah.
artist, it depends. These are people as well, and you don't know what kind of day they've had. It's going to influence how they hear it, and
Mm.
like, and I do think different locations as well. It's going to hit differently. You know, you go play
Yeah, big
Oasis in
time.
different towns, it's going to land, but it's going to land differently. You know,
Yeah.
one crowd's going to be louder than the other. And so there's so many factors, I think, and that it brings it all back to music is extremely subjective. And I think when you're dealing with something with art that is made to convey and trigger emotions, you're dealing with something that's so volatile and so changeable. You can't predict exactly how it's going to land ever. You can get an idea,
Mm.
but you'll never 100% know. And sometimes it sucks and it hurts, and you're like, that did not go as well as I thought it was going to go. Or you're torn up because you put everything into this song and it didn't land. Or it's the most incredible feeling in the entire world. And I think that's probably what keeps us all going, is those moments where it's the best feeling ever. And you're like, this is the only thing I ever need to feel. This is the only thing I ever want to do, because it is a major high.
Yeah, and this is something that I always feel about music, especially live.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't think many people touch on this. Is that different to other arts? And I suppose the closest thing you can get to this would be going to a play or going to the theatre. Is that the art has been created? Yes, you can watch, say, a DVD of Macbeth or something, right? You know, or you can go and put your record on, or whoever's record on. But when you go and see it live, you're watching and you're hearing art being created
Yeah.
by the second, where anything can happen, where this is not like a perfect brush stroke and now it's being photocopied everywhere. You know, this is not a film with CGI being thrown over it and being adjusted so it's perfect in every single way. This is raw, visceral stuff that is coming from human beings, and it could fucking bomb, or it could be better than the recording every nanosecond that it's happening. And
And it's never
it's
going to be the same again.
it's never going to be the same, and that's what saddens me about, I think, a lot of, especially, like, there's so many music venues dying, and I think in that type of art scenario, that saddens me as a writer,
Mm-hmm.
because I go, man, people are missing out. You don't have to see Taylor Swift in a pub to go like, this is great, or like, I'm lucky. Just go and see anyone, even if it's someone on an open mic butchering Wonderwall. Like, there's a magic to that too. All right, after a while it does get a bit tiresome. It's like
Yeah.
when you see covers band playing Smells Like Teen Spirit, you're like, oh, oh, I wouldn't do that, but okay. We'll see what you got, kid. You know, um, there's still a magic to it, even if it sucks, right? And I think the fact that you're
You
seeing,
collected part of something that no
yeah,
one else, unless they're there, they're not going to be part of it again. And I think that's kind of, sorry, like going on a bit of a tangent again, but
that's all.
that kind of brings it back to partly why I'm releasing the live recordings as well, because I got to capture that moment in that room and a little snapshot of it, and I get to share that with a few more people by releasing it live. But even then, it's still not the same. And that's why I really encourage people not necessarily to come see me, but get out to live music, like you say, because there's magic happening there. And it sucks that these music venues are going, because like all the missed opportunities that could have happened, that could have, the songs that could have been played a certain way. And yeah, sometimes they tank, or sometimes we make mistakes like pressing harpsichord instead of keys on your keyboard.
Oh man, yeah, I've done similar things where it's gone for the big riff moment, and you're going to step on the gain button, and you hit the clean, and you're going like, and it
Yeah,
just goes like, and you're like, oh man, we've all done a harpsichord over the piano,
yeah.
like,
But
yeah,
it's moments that once they're done, they're done. They're gone. And
right.
like I say, you're creating art. Yeah, the song's already written, but you're almost recreating it by the second in those environments. I think that's really cool.
It's magic. It really is. It's pure magic, and you can't measure it. There's no like, to the this is the paradox of music, I suppose, of what we're saying before, where you can measure any nano bit from like your streaming services or sales, but when you're in those moments, when you're in the heat of war and the heat of battle in at a venue doing stuff, that's immeasurable. Whether it's one person in the crowd or there's 1,000 or something,
Yeah.
it really doesn't matter. It doesn't. It's hard because sometimes you stood on the stage, like I've done opening slots, right, where or not opening slots, the one after an opening slot, and you go on stage and no one gives two shits who you are. And we played this place once, it's 1,500 people, right, and the whole place emptied in the first day as like the curtain went back and we walked on. Like I think
Savage.
honestly, there was 1,450 people left, right? I'm not even exaggerating it
Look
either,
how
right?
brutal it could be, though. It can
It
literally be
can.
that brutal.
There's footage on it somewhere on YouTube as well. So if anybody wants to go and have a gander at it, and then you can hear because it's like this massive PA, right? And you can hear like the echo of the kit around this fucking empty auditorium, and like trying to sell it as best as I can, but it's so
You
demeaning.
still, and that's the thing. You still have to go give as much as you'd give if that room was full. You still have to put your all into it
Yeah,
because
that will
those
thicken your
50
skin.
people, you don't know who's in those 50 people. You don't know who's stuck around.
No, and by
You
the end
don't
of it, there was a good 500 back in the room, and it felt somewhat nicer, and you kind of go, well, actually, that was more of a win in some way because you were literally thrown to the wolves,
Yeah.
you
It's
know?
really rough. It can
Yeah,
be
I can still remember it now. Honestly, it's one of those core core memories, you know?
like,
And I remember just going like, oh God, this is fucking terrible. And there's
it's
people that I didn't like, or had like beef with were in the crowd and they were like, like. And so it was just like it's like, all right, yeah, it's
it's
definitely,
humbling. I think I
humbling for
think things
sure.
like that
Yeah.
happen for a reason though as well. And I think that's things like that is why it's so important to keep yourself grounded. Because you could get,
Laugh or
you could
cry.
have an amazing run of dates and be like, I am incredible, I'm on top of the world. And then you go the next day and there's like two people, and that will bring you right back down. And then I think how you handle it and how you respond to that really speaks to how dedicated you are to your craft and who you kind of are as well as a person in terms of how you recover from that and how you're going to move forwards. Because some people might just be like, how dare you, get really mad about it and be like, how dare you, I am awesome, people should be here. Or they just say, right, I'm going to quit now, there's no point. I think you've got, especially in this industry, it's brutal, it is harsh. There's a lot of people that are out just for your money. There's a lot of people that are out just to step on you and get a leg up themselves. There's a lot of that, unfortunately. I don't condone anything like that. I don't think
Mm.
it's very fair. I think everybody has an audience. You just need to find them, and that's the hardest bit, is finding them. But I think you need to be super resilient and you need to get up every time that you get knocked back or you feel knocked back by something. You have to get up, and if you want it bad enough, you will. And if you don't want it bad enough, then you quit. But it's not for you. If you can't keep going, then you are going to get so far and it's not for you, and that's fine. There is no shame in that. There's a reason why there's levels and everything. And if you find that you get to a point that you're like, I'm okay with this is okay for me, that is amazing, that is awesome. If you want to carry on further, do it. But I think what I'd probably say to like anyone getting into it, what I have said to people getting into it as well, sort of up and coming, and they're like, I want to become a musician. I'm like, okay, it's gonna be really hard. And then think about how difficult you think it's gonna be, times that by about 1,000, and then some,
And then some, yeah.
and then some. But if you want it, do it. Just do it. Just keep going for it. Because you never know. You never know what your next opportunity is going to be.
Yeah, and I suppose the one thing I did learn from that experience, I remember after that, unless it was my turn to be at the merch stand,
Mm.
or unless it was I had to go and warm up before going on, I stayed and watched every single band on tour after that for my whole career.
I
I think all of us in the band did after that. It was like we were never not going and, not going to stick around for anyone after that because I remembered the pit of despair while still trying to smile on stage, you know?
it's nice. It's nice to have that endorsement from other musicians as well,
Mm.
because it's obviously you want the audience to love you. You also want to kind of have that connection with the other musicians too, because you're in it together. And I think that's one of the
You
things.
are, yeah. That's the thing people don't realize. It's
Yeah,
not, it's not charts and numbers make things war, but it's,
yeah.
very
At the end of
topical.
the day,
But
we're all trying to do the same
yeah,
thing.
yeah, you are all in the same boat, and
Yeah,
there's plenty of boat to go round.
There is, and
You know,
I'm the same. I try and watch as much of, you know, if it's a gig and stuff on a one night, I try and watch as much as I can of the others because, like I say, we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to do the same thing, and I think it's kind to do that. It's nice to do that, and it's nice to be nice.
why would you not want to help someone in
Yeah,
that scenario?
exactly. And
You know,
unless there's reasons why you really can't, like I have had reasons before I haven't been able to stay, and I've had to move. I've actually moved myself up the lineup because we arrived. I mean, I won't name names or anything, but we arrived and one of the band members had a family emergency as we arrived to the show. And I was like, and it was a good 5 hours away. And I was like, do you want us to turn around and go back? Like, we can. And he was like, no, because there's nothing I can do from here. But we went and spoke to the promoter. We got moved up the bill so that we could leave a bit earlier. And I went and spoke to the band and said, listen, I'm really sorry. And I would never normally do this, but we've had a family emergency in the band and we're going to have to leave and I can't catch your set. I'm really sorry about that. And I hate doing that, but it's only cases like that I couldn't really stay. And they were really understanding as well. They were friends of ours anyway, but they were really understanding as well. And I think if you can't stay, just have that conversation. That's fine.
mm,
Not saying that you have to be held prisoner. But if you've got the option to, then yeah, absolutely you should stay. Because you might learn something as well. Even if you think you won't, you might learn something from watching someone else or how they interact with the crowd or, you know, even just be seen to be supportive and be doing that. And I think, like I say, it's nice to be nice and we're all trying to do the same thing. Just have a little bit of support for each other.
100%, man. I think you've wrapped that up quite nicely there. You know, so just as to kind of what have we got left for 2024, even though we're only 4 months in and it feels like the longest 4 months ever. But
It's gone
well, I
quick.
mean, apart from 2025, you're obviously releasing a new record.
I will be releasing in 2025. I mean, I'm releasing for the foreseeable, hopefully. But yeah, no,
What does the rest of 24 hold for you?
So currently I'm in the campaign for the second live single, so live version of Daddy's Girl, which features on my Wanderlust and Breaking Rules album, will be coming out on the 3rd of May. And in May as well, I'll be doing Buckle and Boots Festival, which is going to be awesome. And then I've got loads of great festivals like Speedfest, Rock and Ribs, Blackthorn Proud to Be Festival as well as some shows. So 4th of July, if you fancy a bit of a Outlaws and Independents country Americana show in London, then I'm in association with Black Deer Live and Talent Bank, putting that on with 4 artists, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a party. We're making sure it's going to be a party. So shows like that are really exciting to do.
Excellent,
All
man.
the information is on my website as well. And then October is tour time again.
Excellent, man. Well, Emilia, well, I know you're going to absolutely smash it, man, you know, as you have done in the past 18 months, you know. So I hope you
And
have a
18
good
months,
time.
what's happened.
Yeah, just taking over the whole scene. Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah. You know, that's great, man. You know what? I'm so glad. I'm so glad the good guys and gals are doing it, man. You know, I really am. I really love to see the good people do well, and you're one of the good ones, and you're doing well. You know, what more could you want? You know, it's fantastic, and you know, I can't wait to hear the second record, and that will be coming out obviously soon next year. You know, and I
I'm
can't wait to
kind
catch
of,
you on tour this time. I promise I won't be in hospital.
you better not. If not, then you just have to come over from the hospital.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I'll just get wheeled out.
Yeah. Bring a wheelchair. Be fine. Borrow it
I
for half.
will. I will. I will be fine. I'll get helicoptered in. All right.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Emilia, you take it easy, man. And huge love to you. Good luck for the rest of the year.
Thanks so much.
Cheers, guys. We'll see you soon.